After a whole bunch of delays due to this coronavirus pandemic, we finally get the first racing action at Wagler's new short course event. And Chad's Razor gets a bit of a facelift. So strap in as we bring you up to the race pace. Welcome back to Race Pace, sponsored by CW Motorsports. I'm Doug.
And I'm Chad.
And for once in the history of Eminent Performance, Chad and I were actually at a race at the same time.
I know, it's been a while, hasn't it?
Okay, it's not the first time, but it definitely, I don't know, it's probably been... Well, I think the last time we were together at a race was the start of the season back in March, and then everything went to heck, and we just haven't actually been anywhere since then.
Yeah, that's probably right. The first MWXC, I think that was it.
Yeah, we went out there and it was just absolutely bitter cold that morning. I mean, I remember out there, I was on your quad and my hands were just frozen to the handlebars after riding around for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It was not like that yesterday at Wagler's.
No, gosh. I think the heat index got up to around 115.
Yeah. It was brutally unrelentingly hot. And so I came down from northern Indiana where I'm living now, and it's about a 3-hour and 45-minute drive. And, I had the air conditioning on. I was comfortable the whole way down, and opening that car door for the first time in almost 4 hours was like a punch in the face.
Well, I'd been outside since 10:30 in the morning. It's when I got down there to Wagler's, and I was out in it all day. So
and you can't drink enough water. You just can't.
No. I had a water bottle in my hand the whole day, just kept drinking, all I could take in, and I still was dehydrated when I got home, but I was better than I would have been. That's the best I could say.
So before we get too far into Wagler's, what's that behind you, Chad?
I've switched teams.
I thought maybe you just did some real plastic surgery on the Razor.
No, it's totally different. So, yes, I have gone to an X3. So, I guess some of the history of that car, it used to be Jason Watts, then it was Matt Hecker's, then Tyler Brittingham had it, and he was getting out of racing. He was wanting into trail riding. I said, well, I might be able to make a deal with you on that. And obviously we did and sorted it out. So, it's still got all his graphics on it and everything else. Those will be changed out here in the reasonable near future. Right now, if you can see the front lip there on the visor, has duct tape over it because I was covering his number and his name up. I wrote my number on with a Sharpie. Looks super ghetto, but...
Let's go racing.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. And in kind of typical fashion for me, I picked it up on a Friday night. I drove home, didn't even unload it off the trailer, drove to the race, and my driving experience prior to starting the first race was driving it to the starting line.
I mean, honestly, I can't think of what more you'd need than that, but that seems entirely adequate for going racing.
Everybody thought I was nuts. It was kind of funny. But no, I figured... what better way to get used to it than out how I'm going to drive it, so why not?
So Tyler wanted to go trail riding, so you gave him probably the world's fastest Razor.
Pretty much, yep.
He should get around the trails pretty good with that thing.
Yeah. Honestly, now there's going to be all kinds of people that ask, I'm sure, because I've already had people ask me. My Razor was honestly faster than this X3 right now. That doesn't mean things won't change and this won't get significantly faster, but my Razor, when it left my hands versus this, my Razor would chew it up.
Yeah. And,
so,
I mean, we've always said it was a fast machine. You were just giving it back in the corners, and that was always the problem with it. Now that you've got a machine that corners well, you can tune up the horsepower. I mean, 400 horsepower is not going to be reliable for the entirety of a race season, realistically, but you can turn them up that far, so you've got room to grow.
Yeah, I have a a horsepower setting in mind that I want to go to. I know who I want to do my tuning. I know what parts I need to start assembling, and we'll go from there. So I have a plan. It's just going to take a little bit to execute said plan.
Yeah, it's going to be sweet, though. And even so, this is already a built machine. In fact, it's 6 inches shorter than a stock machine.
Yes, it is. And it's already, they say, sitting at 200 horse at the motor. So, and it's no slouch. I'm not saying it's slow by any stretch of the imagination. Yesterday, when I launched off the line, I was pretty much wheel-to-wheel with Barry Miller, who's in a 2020 car with a tune. Ralph Lovell, he was actually slightly behind me, but that could have just been reaction time off the line. And he's in a fast car, and Keith Gardner's car, it was right there with us. Like, I was not losing to anybody, so it's not a slow car. I don't want to say that.
Yeah.
It's just not as fast as my Razor was, but that's fine. So I won't run through all the mods in this video of what all it has. Maybe I'll do another one here later in the week where I kind of walk through what all it has. But yeah, this one's gonna be my kind of race machine. It'll get a few modifications to set up how I like, and we'll go from there.
Well, Wagler did host the very first short course event. It was supposed to be earlier in the season, but of course the season has been a giant mess, just like everything else this year. So They finally got around to it yesterday. It's the first of 2 events. There was originally supposed to be 5. They've had to pare that back to 2. But it was an absolute blast. The track, they've definitely prepped it a lot. They learned a lot from kind of the trial race they did last year. The track was prepped really well. Good bridges across the creeks and stuff like that. And the soil, while it was still pretty loose, was not near as bad as it was the first time around last year.
Yeah, the ground was soft underneath, but we were actually rolling dust out there. When Doug says the creeks, it's actually a drainage ditch for the field that's next to them. So,
I was making it sound classy.
Yeah, it's a drainage ditch, and the water was nasty, and it was super deep. Like, it was steep drainage ditch, like in a normal field. You weren't crawling down and driving through it at speed. So they built some nice bridges over it. Honestly, they have a good track with good jumps and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. The suspension on mine was not particularly set up to fly well. So Doug will, I'm sure, insert the video right here. That is already floating around.
Of you trying to kill me.
I saw you the whole time, and I don't think I ever got within 30 feet of you.
Now, in my defense, all I saw was a lawn-darting UTV heading directly for me. And when you're watching that through a tiny, little 2-inch screen on the back of a camera, you really don't have any depth perception. You just know something is coming at you fast.
And that thing's straight pipe, so it's coming at you fast and loud.
Yes, so I backed away. We'll put it that way.
So I'll walk you through the video, which I'm sure is going here now. Ralph, he was in front of me just because of how we got crammed up at the start. He kind of took the jump and maybe flew 30 feet or something. I thought, I think I can land on the downward face, and I hammered it. And I probably flew double what he flew. I was probably 60 feet, and the suspension was not ready for that. It just was not. The suspension is amazing on the car. It just wasn't dialed in to fly like that. And I was used to how my Razor flew, and that does not fly like my Razor flies.
No.
And I dug in, and it dug in so bad that like Ryan Kunkel shot video and stuff like that, where he was far enough back where you can see the rear bumper over top of the whole car. Like, I dug front bumper hard, and there's dirt crammed up in that front bumper. But as soon as I felt the front tires grab, I just gassed it and drove the front end out from under it, and I kept going. I mean, I wasn't stopping.
I mean, To be fair, that was the second time that race you tried to kill me. The first time was right on the start. But
that was not me. That was Ralph driving up on my car, and I actually let off the gas to not kill you. If I wanted to get first, like in front, I would have stayed on the gas and killed you.
I had Mike Plank standing next to me, and he's like, move.
Yeah, I parked up on top of a couple hay bales and wrapped the baling wire up in the back end and had to fish that out after.
But you got to race. That had to feel good.
It did. And no, it was no fault of Ralph's or anything like that. What happened was we just all were running pretty much the exact same speed, and when you're 5 cars wide and everybody has to go into the first jump that's only 1 car wide,
yeah,
you're going to make contact or somebody has to give. And none of us wanted to give right away, so we all made contact.
It was exactly the start I expected.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, it was good to get out there. I had a good time. Wagler's, like I said, had set up a good course. I'm looking forward to more of their events. I would really like to see if they could get that thing hard packed, but I don't know if that ground will support it. The dirt type it is, it's a black dirt. I mean, dirt.
Yeah, it's the kind of dirt that honestly has too much organic stuff in it. It doesn't have enough just rocky mass to really pack
clay.
down.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's still a good course. We didn't tear it up too bad from what I could see. I mean, you go out there and a little bit of prep and it'll clean right up and it'll be fine. But, yeah, it's a good course. They also had something that was a little bit different, and they did UTV drag racing.
Yeah.
Before. So, Barry Miller, Mike Plank, Ryan Kunkel, Jeremy Wagler was out there, and Alan Burton. I think that was all of them.
Yep.
If I missed one of you guys, I'm sorry. But anyway, they went out there before and drag raced. Barry Miller set the fast time in his monster car. I got there, but being as it was a new machine, I didn't know what condition the belt was in. I didn't know anything about it. I was like, drag racing is probably the last thing I should go do right now before going to the short course race.
And Barry wasn't messing around. I mean, he actually showed up with a set of Hoosier racing tires, mounted on a separate set of rims. Like, he was ready to go.
Yeah, he was ready to go. I think the fastest time he put down was an 8.3 in the 8th.
That's smoking.
And honestly, he was running as fast or faster than a lot of the cars that were there that were not like full-blown built dragsters.
Yeah.
Like ones that were mildly hopped up and still streetable cars. He was running as quick as they were.
Yeah, that's seriously impressive. And an 1/8 mile drag is really perfect for a UTV because you don't have enough gear to get a 1/4 mile.
No, they weren't quite topped out. They were somewhere around 70-something mile an hour, 70-ish, 75, whatever it was. The RS1s were running about 1 second slower in the 8th. So there's a 4-seater out there, 1000, and he was even a second slower than them. He was 10-something. The RS1s were 9-something. And Barry and Kunkel were both, Barry was 8.3, and I think Kunkel, the fastest he ran, was like an 8.6 or an 8.7.
And I'll tell you what, a second in an 1/8 mile is a lot of time.
Yeah.
Like, that's really impressive how quick those are.
Yeah. So it was a good time. We posted some videos on Instagram and Facebook, so go check those out. Yeah, it was something different that the guys didn't get to do a lot. And I was kind of explaining to Chelsea, Barry's girlfriend, like how, you set your breakout time and you're kind of, basically you have to run consistent. That's the way that setup was. So it was neat.
Yeah. So the Pro Open, the big event, so they had Pro Turbo and Pro Open. And in the Pro Open event, Devin Smith took top honors running Keith Gardner's new car. So Keith came out there and got a little bit of practice in and tooled around, but he really was slightly nervous about racing. And so they were talking about the fact they needed more Pro Open cars. And so Keith pulls out, a fat, crispy $100 bill, pays for Devin's entry fee, and Devin gets him the win.
Yay. And they split the winnings.
And Barry Miller pulled up into second place in that, but that was honestly a really good race.
Yeah, it was. Probably the race of the night, though, was the RS1 class.
Yes.
It was Jeremy from down there at Nightcrawler, as I think who it was, and Alan Burton. And those two, I mean, Mike Plank was racing too and all that, but he had a tune problem with his car, I guess, and he just didn't have full power. But those two, for the entire 10-minute, it was just the heat race. It wasn't even the final one that I was there to watch because I had to cut out early. But they were on, Alan was in front, Jeremy was right behind him, and he was right on his bumper the whole time. And he finally got around him the last lap, but only because Alan's rear tires packed up with so much dirt because he doesn't have like rock guards on them that it overheated his brakes, and he lost brakes on the last lap.
Yeah. It was kind of heartbreaking to see because he was running such a good race. But yeah, once the brakes went, Jeremy got around it. But that was a really, really good race.
Yeah, that was a great one.
And it was neat to see those RS1s out there just hammering. I mean,
yeah. They're not as fast as the turbo cars out there, but, I mean, they're quick.
And it makes you realize what that platform's capable of. You know,
right.
We've seen them in XC racing, but XC is kind of an equalizer because we've talked about the fact that once you get above 180 horsepower, there's no advantage anymore. And just the nature of XC racing, we've always known that the RS1s were competitive, but being able to see them out there in the open on that kind of short course motocross format, you could see just what you can get out of that platform.
Yeah, exactly. And they did great. The thing is, those RS1s fly so well, too. They're just really well balanced. They flow really well through the corners and everything, and then they get to those jumps, and it's just they sail really nice. So
yeah, they do. Interesting to see some of the turbo RS1 mods that are coming out that people are building. So
yep, we'll see how that goes as time goes on.
Packing another couple 80 to 100 horsepower in that platform, and man, you've got something on your hands.
Yeah, you do. Then you are a real something to be contended with out there on the track.
Yeah, for sure. But honestly, it was a great day. I think Wagler's will probably end up making a little bit of shift in the way they schedule stuff because it did get a little long in the tooth towards the end. Last races had to run with lights on. But, this is all brand new. And we had a really, really good turnout for UTVs. In fact, we had to split one of the classes into a 7A and a 7B, which it was the 7th race, so that's the 7 part. Right. But there was just enough that showed up, we couldn't run them all together. So that's good. It lets Wagler know that we are interested in running out there and that the short course thing has some legs, and I'm really hoping that we get even more out there for the second event.
Yeah, I was talking to Trey, and he said that, yeah, he was happy with the turnout and everything like that, so that's good. I think we can get more to show up out there. I think the short course stuff like that is easier to swallow for the average guy who just wants to come out and race.
I had that exact discussion with a couple people there who were kind of curious about it and wanted to talk about it a little bit. And I said, well, the big thing is this is a lot more approachable than XC racing. XC racing's intimidating. It's hour-long races. It's through tight spots in the woods, or in some courses, that's all there are tight spots. There's nowhere else to go. It's really intimidating. This seems a lot more accessible to somebody who just wants to go out, have some fun, run a 10-minute race, doesn't have to worry about hitting trees unless they are really, really off course.
Right. The only thing, if you guys at Wagler's are listening, and I would tell Trey this, I may shoot him a message or get the message to him somehow because we kind of Barry talks to him, I guess, a fair amount. The track needs to be wider.
Yeah, it's barely 2 cars wide.
There was only one jump that you could, 1.5 jumps that you could take 2 cars wide, and honestly, like the rest of it, you almost were single tracking. I mean, there's a few spots where you could get around, but by the time we dug ruts, there was nothing.
Yeah. And I know they wanted to widen out some of the jumps, but honestly, they were out of fill dirt out there. They were running out of dirt to actually push around and make jumps. So if anybody listening has access to cheap or free fill dirt that they can widen some of this out, with the jumps and everything, get a hold of us and we will pass it, and we'll figure out a way to help them out with that.
Yeah, it takes way more dirt to build a track like that than anyone would ever imagine.
Yes, it does.
Way more dirt. So,
but
well,
no,
we are approaching the end of our time, Doug. We're going to have to wrap this up, and we thought it was going to be a quick one.
It is a quick one. It's 20 minutes, just like all of them. Yeah, remember filling an hour? That wasn't a big deal either.
Yeah.
Anyways, we do want to say a big thank you to all of our sponsors. Of course, CW Motorsports, who has been our title sponsor this year. We've also got Matt Price over at 834 Powder Coat, Kevin Spangler from Spangs Fab, and Watch Communications on board. All of them have supported us basically through our entire podcasting career. 834 is new this year, but everybody else has been on board for quite a while, and we can't tell you enough how much we appreciate your support.
Yep.
You can find us on the web at eminentperformance.com, Facebook and Instagram at Eminent Racing. And if you go over to YouTube/Eminent Performance, you'll find our channel with all of our stuff on there. And if you're looking for the audio-only version of this podcast, you can find that on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, any of the major podcast outlets. Just look for Eminent Performance, and you're going to find us there as well. If you could take a couple seconds and leave a like or a comment or anything that indicates that you are listening and you're interested, that definitely helps us build our listener base, and it lets the platforms know that, hey, people are actually listening to this above and beyond just the numbers they happen to see. And This past month, we had, to say record numbers would be putting it lightly, like cartoonishly large numbers for this show. So I'm not really sure what happened, but we're not complaining, and we hope that kind of growth continues on.
We'll just keep it up.
For as long as you people can stand it.
Yep.
If you're on YouTube right now, you can actually click the little subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, and that will subscribe you to our channel. And then once you do that, there's a little bell icon. If you click on that, that will let you know, it'll actually give you an alert when we post new content, so you never miss any of this scintillating, amazing video content.
Stuff.
Anything else before we close up shop?
No, just stay tuned. We'll have, like I said, I'll probably try and do a walk-around video later in the week to get out to everybody just to show them what's going on with that car. There's going to be projects coming up on it, stuff I'm going to change. So, yeah, keep watching.
Yep, we're definitely going to kind of keep a close eye as Chad goes through this, and it's kind of his re-entry to racing, so it'll be good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, everybody out there, thanks for riding along with us, and we'll catch you down the road.
Thanks, guys.